Today we're talking about the tenant screening process, managing residential apartment buildings. It is so key who you put in your apartments. That is going to make or break your success or failure in this business. So once again, I'm going directly right out of the management system that we created over the past 10, 12 years, and this is a significant, important part of this management system for the reasons I just discussed. But for starters, tenant screening. After they fill out an application, it's going to give you the information to run credit. So right on the application, on that top portion, it's going to have name, address, date of birth, social security number, all of the normal personal information that someone will put on an application, but it's also the information that you need to input with a credit bureau so they're able to give you an accurate credit report. So that is key to get a credit score so you're able to see the tenant's payment history. We're not all about what the score is. I was focused on what their activity was. So someone might have extensive credit, but I'm focusing on, yes, their credit is extensive, but do they pay everything on time? That is key. Someone might have way less credit and they don't have a lot to worry about, but if they're not paying that on time, it's a clear example of how they may or may not pay their rent on time. So that is key to see how many late payments they've had, and also a key component on those credit reports is it shows their previous addresses. So this is kind of a pro tip. When you go to that credit report and you see those previous addresses, go directly to the application and see those addresses were listed as previous addresses, and there's landlord references for those addresses. That is a key component that you want to look out for, and if there's any voids in that information, that's where you get on the phone with the tenant and say, hey, what about this address that I'm seeing on the credit report that's not listed on the application? It would be very interesting what their response is there. Landlord references, once again, I've gotten so much value out of landlord references. A lot of people will say, yeah, but tenants will give you landlord references that aren't truthful. So the way to get around that is you call a landlord reference, you say something like this: hi, my name is Bill, I'm calling in reference to John Doe. Can you tell me what your relationship is with John? And you've just introduced yourself, you've asked about the prospective tenant, but you left it vague, where you didn't say that they were applying for my apartment or they're a tenant of yours. So it's very interesting on how they react to that question. If it's a legitimate landlord, you'll get a legitimate response. If it's not a legitimate landlord reference, you'll get a response that you can tell that it's not a legitimate landlord. So that's how you get accuracy there. And then employment is huge. So we like to make sure that any prospective tenants can actually afford the rent. So we will basically use that 30-35% income to rent scenario. And if they are at a 50% income to rent, it's unaffordable. If it's 30-35% or less, then it is affordable, and that's a check for employment. We also like to get check stubs and that type of information to verify employment. Tenant screening checklist. What we did was create a summary sheet based on everything I just explained, and it filled in the blank on the results of how that tenant screening went. We would go another step once we did those normal credit checks, employment, and landlord, we would do a quick Google search, some social media searches to see what that prospect is doing online as well, which gives us a little bit more background on that prospect. At the same time, when we are showing a prospect an apartment, we're able to ask them questions before we even show the apartment to them, stating, hey, before I show you the apartment, just to let you know, we check credit, we check landlord references, we check employment. Are you comfortable with this stuff? Are you comfortable that all of this stuff is going to check out fine, where you'll pass our application process? Along with, there's a $20 credit check fee, and this will screen out, filter out a lot of people that know that they're not going to qualify. They're not wasting their time looking at the apartment. We're not wasting our time showing them the apartment. That's why that pre-screening before you show it is also a good time saver. Along with having a good application, whether you have a hard copy or whether you have an online copy where someone can fill it out, whatever their style is. Some people like to do the hard copy. Many people like to do the online version, and then they have the ability to pay the application fee online, and it's streamlined very quickly because it's so key. Once someone fills out an application, you really want to prioritize that, drop everything, process the application, because if it's a good prospect, you want to get back to them immediately, get that lease signed and that security deposit paid immediately. The longer you go without taking care of that important step at the end, the better the chance of that tenant finding a different place or just not converting in general. So just a simple sales item, when they pass that application, get the lease done, get the security deposit, and get that person signed up.